Hey Internet, it's me. Now, let's be clear, you knew what movie I was going to watch today. I did finish the trilogy, and, this movie has a lot of the same nits that I could pick. They're not consistent with what noises are loud enough to draw the attention of the creatures and not, and also they don't seem to understand how sound waves work, in that they don't bounce infinitely, they degrade when bouncing off surfaces, and they don't pass through some surfaces. So, for example, if you're inside a building and you make a small noise, the aliens outside are not going to hear. That's just not how sound works. And really, you could apply that to all three movies. It's not unique in this one. They've done the same thing in all of them. But before I talk more about the movie, there's one fun thing I do want to mention, and I have a prop. You see, a lot of this film was filmed at a soundstage here in Western New York called Buffalo Filmworks. And the cool thing about that soundstage is the sound guy that is usually a part of the film crew I work with works there. And so for several of our 48-hour film festival competition submissions, we were able to film at that location. So Will Roger, a film that I was in, was filmed there. Eccentric, the film that my Snakes starred in, was there. And most importantly, one called Side With Me, that I was the star of, took place there. And in fact, I play an evil politician. I don't know how well you can see the poster. That is me, back before I cut my hair slightly shorter. If you are watching this movie, Quiet Place Part 2, which is the movie, by the way, if you're watching the movie, when they get to the abandoned steel mill, the part where they're running into the building and there's like the exposed brickwork and beams and the building's kind of dilapidated a bit, there's holes in the walls. I was gunned down and killed by two angry biker lesbians who may or may not have been the Angel of Death in this film that I shot in that very same location. Like right where they ran through, that's where I got to ride on a really cool classic Harley to help move it between scenes. But they rolled in on that Harley and gunned me down in that exact same location. So that's just a really cool story. It's fun that I got to basically share a set with this film. Obviously not at the same time. I didn't, meet John Krasinski or Emily Blunt or anybody. But it's just cool that I got to be there. But back to the movie itself and less of me having some weird little brag. I'm going to set this down on Floorlax now. Yeah, the movie, like I said about the other two, is just fun. It's still just like the other ones, and again, I say this like it's a complaint or a detractor, and it's not. It's just to level set people's expectations. It's more drama than horror. A lot of it is the tension is being built mostly because you want to see if, the human psyche and the human body can undergo what they have to do to make it through this. It's not so much a threat of these alien things that may or may not hear them depending on what level of consistency they're keeping at that moment. It's more, can you fight through this pain without making noise, or can you will yourself to go on even though it seems pretty hopeless? So it's very much the drama before the horror. That being said, just like the other two movies, there are still really good tense scenes with the aliens, There is a bit of gruesome gore with just, at some point when they let the aliens really let loose. It still has that same visual spectacle. I feel like they actually upped their game a little for this one because the aliens just got really detailed. When she does the feedback from her hearing aid and their protective head armor shell thing kind of opens up, at one point, it slows down and focuses in on I guess you'd call it the ear, the auditory canal of the alien, and you just see, the pulsating of it sending out, clicks and noises to do echolocation, and there's just really, really good detail on just the innards of this thing's head, and all, not the viscera, because that's the inside bits, but just, the musculature and the membrane and everything that just is part of this creature. It looks fantastic. So, while the other movies also looked really good, this one especially, the effects team I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was CG. It was all added afterward, but still, someone had to animate that. They had to create that alien on a computer. That takes a lot of work. They had to render it from every angle. They had to, diffuse the light so that it actually fit within the scene and wasn't uncanny. Like, someone still put a lot of work into this. I know it's computer aided, but it's still tons of effort, and it really paid off. It looks incredible. So credit where it's due on that one for sure. Also, just like the other two movies, the acting here is really good because they do focus so much on the drama and the human aspect and the character interactions. It's even more important than in most horror movies that the acting be on point, and it really is. Everyone here, just really shows that they're capable. They know their stuff. They're very good at their craft. You believe all of them in their roles. If they need to seem hopeless or desperate or just unbelievably, just not pain-ridden, but like guilt-ridden, like they can convey just, these horrible emotions very believably. And then on the flip side, at the end, is the two child actors who get, the badass stand-up and fight moment. And they both do that really well, too. You believe that they finally basically said, I've had enough of this shit, it's my time, and they stand up and they kill the aliens. And it's awesome. It is literally awesome in the sense that you are struck with a sense of awe watching them do this. It is an astounding thing that they are doing. They're facing this, unimaginable, unbeatable foe after discovering this one weakness, and they're exploiting it, and they're killing this thing. They're getting revenge for all the terrible stuff that's happened to them. So it's a really cool moment, sold well because they act just so believably. So yeah, I really, I have nitpicked. I have talked about how these movies may or may not care about science or continuity. But that being said, they're still really good, and the people that worked on these films deserve a lot of credit for it. Especially, like I said, those two child actors and then the effects teams for making these monsters look as good as they do. There's not much to say about this one that I haven't already said with the other two. The plot's a little different. They're going to an island to find survivors because they heard this song, the someone over the sea, whatever. I forget how the song goes, but you'd know the song. Basically, it's a not so subtle code that, hey, go over the water, and we're somewhere else. We're on an island. And so they go there and they find some people, and hey, these people are freely making noise. There's no aliens here because they can't swim. Yay! But then one was stuck on a boat and it lands there, and now there's an alien. But basically, the plot is they're trying to get to this island. They're trying to find a safe haven. They don't want to have to struggle and survive around these aliens anymore. They want to have a safe space where they can actually thrive. Granted, it's just a small commune, so you're only going to thrive for so long until you start introducing like inbreeding and other issues, also food scarcity, but here nor there. The point is, that's the plot, that's what they're doing, and they succeed, and everything is great. So, yeah. Like I said, there's not much else I can say that makes this one different from the other two. All three of them are just a fun watch. Now, I know they were actually released out of order. It was Quiet Place Part 2, and then Day 1 was actually the third movie. But you can watch them out of order and see Day 1 as the prequel that introduces it, and then watch the other two, and, it works very well. Like, they're still... They are reasonably... They're reasonably in continuity. Everything makes sense for the most part. Like I said, if you get really critical and really nitpick, there are obviously things in each movie. I know yesterday I went through a ton. But, no, overall, it is a good story. They've done some good world building, incredible acting. It's just, all three are a lot of fun, and I recommend them. And that's where I'm going to end, because otherwise I'm just going to keep rambling and repeating myself. So stay tuned, and I'll see you tomorrow.